Good afternoon. We are here with another installment during this month. As you all know, it's Dementia Awareness Month, World Dementia Awareness Month. And today I have the privilege of having with me Miss Tracey Lawrence. Now, Tracey is a very accomplished woman. She's an author. She has a founder of Grand Family Planning LLC. She's a station manager at Borough of Ringwood. She's president at Graphic Details Inc., former advocate of can you pronounce that for me, Tracey?
Yeah. Renee Marie's Language of Love Foundation.
Yes, yes. So we also that. And she also has many, many, many more accomplishments, and allow her to speak to you today, and she can fill you in on some of those. So with that, I hand it over to Tracey. Hi, Tracey.
Hey, Sean. Thanks so much for having me on today. I appreciate it, and it's so nice to meet you because we've kind of bumped into each other and conversed a bit on Facebook. But it's nice to be able to see your smiling face today. So.
Thank you, and likewise.
So I am I am someone who's been through a lot. I've got some rings on my trunk, and I'm a person who likes to take my experiences and turn them into educational moments. And one of the things that I learned from my beloved father is that as long as you keep learning, you keep growing, and it makes your life much richer. So I'm always looking to learn new things. I'm a problem solver by nature. And I've been a graphic artist most of my adult life. When my parents started showing signs of becoming ill at the turn of the century, then I had to adapt. In 2003, I was living in northern New Jersey, and my parents were living in Florida. My dad was not just my father, but he was my friend, and he was a very smart, funny guy. I really enjoyed him a lot. And he made it seem that he was doing fine until my family met in Florida for a spring vacation, and I was alarmed to see how my dad was truly doing. And that was my big wake-up call. That was my introduction to geriatric illnesses, and learned that my father had a bunch of cross-complicating illnesses, and the worst of them was dementia. He had a crisis that severely exacerbated his condition, and once that happened, he lost his short-term memory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And when that happened, he didn't want to live anymore, which was horrible, but understandable because he was no longer the person he enjoyed being.
Mm-hmm.
And so with all the illnesses that he had, and seeing how incredibly miserable he was, we as a family decided, and my mother was the one who really resisted the most, and that was understandable as well. We made the decision that we weren't going to do anything to prolong his life. And so his illness, our involvement in his illness began in the spring, summer of 2003, and he died in July of 2004. My mom, who had a very close relationship with my father and was very dependent on him for her day-to-day well-being, wanted to go back to Florida, and I took her back, and she lived independently for a while. And she was doing okay until she wasn't. In 2006, she had a heart attack. She reported that to me on the phone. I had to force her to go to the doctor. I called her doctor, made an appointment for her, and called her back and said, "Mom, how soon can you be to the doctor?" And she said, "Oh, I was just putting on my bathing suit and going down to the pool."
Wow.
And I said, "Listen, you just told me that you had chest pains, and I want you to go to the doctor. And so she did. And the doctor did an EKG and discovered that she had just had a heart attack and sent her to the hospital. And she was very mad at me. It was all my fault.
Yeah, sounds like she's a very strong woman, very strong woman as well.
Yeah, she was, and she was a character, and you know, I give her a lot of credit. She really fought the good fight for a long time. Then in 2009, her gallbladder needed to be removed, and she was terrified that she was going to have it removed conventionally. So I brought her to New Jersey, and I helped to take care of that situation along with her. I found doctors up here who would do the procedure laparoscopically. And she recovered so quickly and so well that within 5 days of the surgery, she was campaigning to go back to Florida yet again.
Wow.
Yeah, but at that point, this is now 2009, and my mother was 80 years old. She was beginning to show signs of not being able to fend for herself very well. And there were a lot of things that I did for her while I was with her. And at that point, I said, you know, Mom, I really would like to hire someone to be with you at least for several days of the week, because I am afraid that if you are left alone, you know, you will not be able to, you know, things will happen. And she gave me a lot of pushback, and she said that she didn't need a stinking babysitter. And I said, you're right. You don't need a babysitter. But what you do need is someone who can fill in for all the things that I do for you when I'm with you. And then to kind of put a fine point on it, I said, look, if I call your apartment and I expect you to be home and you don't answer the phone, the picture I have in my head is of you on the phone, unable to get up, on the floor, unable to get up and unable to come to the phone. Right. And that is something that I don't think it's fair for me to have to deal with. True. So I would like you, someone who I can call on to be my proxy for you, so that in the event that something happens and I don't know what's going on with you, I can call them and say, can you go see what's going on with Mom? You would be doing me a favor. And I've learned that that's a really important way to be able to handle dealing with these situations, because Sean, one of the things that I've learned about people as they age, nobody has to tell them that they're declining, right? When someone's declining, they pretty much know. Even if they have dementia, they know. And so it's terrifying because you're losing control of your life. So if you talk to them in a way that suggests that you are giving them some control, then they are going to be more receptive to the idea. So in this particular case, I told my mother that I had a problem and that she could help me by addressing that problem. So it made her feel like she had some control, like she was doing something for me instead of me forcing her to do something.
Right. That's very strategic. Very strategic.
It is. And it's one of those tricks that I learned along the way that I share with people I work with, because when we first are confronted with having to help our loved ones who are going through these kinds of phases, we have a tendency to, we live in a very go-go age, and we develop lists. And we'll put some, Mom and Dad are on the list, right? And you want to be able to check off the list. Well, Mom and Dad aren't an action item. That's true. They're your loved ones, and it's a process. Yes. And so I try to help people to understand what some of the issues are, how to prepare for them, how to navigate through them, how to get buy-in from their loved ones, and how to have a productive conversation so that you can actually do some things together that will help you all to be able to have a healthier, more well-grounded life, and so that everyone enjoys more quality of life, and we're all able to communicate with each other. I don't want the parents to have to feel like they feel like their kids are doing something to them.
Mm-hmm.
That the conversation has to be, Mom and Dad, we love you and we want to do this for you and with you.
Right.
So it's a different approach, and it has a tendency to have a more successful outcome, because then people feel like they have some control, they have some say, and their desires are being honored.
Mm-hmm. And what I find, especially even with my own parent, my mother's the only one still living, is that the decline, just the process of they accept the fact that, yes, I'm older, and yes, I've reached this point where I'm beginning to decline. It's a struggle for them. And
Yeah.
we need to, as siblings, as children, as caregivers, we need to find ways that will make it okay for them. Because it's often very difficult, and I tell this, I own home care agency, and I often tell this to clients and prospects, is one of the most difficult things in life that you will do is try to care for a parent or someone you love. One of the most difficult things that they're doing in their life is having you do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Absolutely.
a huge struggle for them to sit back and
Sure.
say, I changed your diaper. I've done these things for you. Now I need you to do these things for me. And sometimes it doesn't work with the child doing it. Sometimes it has to be a stranger, or it has to be someone outside other than you.
Absolutely. That's a really big one. And Sean, one of the one of the big aha moments for me with my mom, I had her once she started going through her stuff, and she was my husband and I had her living with us, and she had fallen on the floor. She
Mm-hmm.
fell out of bed, and I was trying to help her up. She would not allow me to, because she was afraid she was going to hurt me. She was a hefty lady.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, she wasn't quite 5 feet anymore, and she was over 200 pounds. So she was afraid that I would hurt myself, and that was a justifiable fear, right?
Right. Yes.
So when I would bring in a professional who knew how to lift her,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now she'd surrender. She would do whatever that person would say to her because she felt comfortable. This was a professional who knew what they were doing, and she wasn't afraid of hurting them.
Right.
So, and that's a really big thing for people to understand. We want to do for our loved ones, but there are some things we're just not cut out to do. And,
Mm-hmm.
For a parent to have a child change their clothes or change a diaper on them, that's a really tough thing for them to get past. A child caring for them, it's like it turns everything they've known their entire lives on its head.
Yes.
So, and look, even the most willing child, and a lot of children aren't willing, but the most willing children, it's still like, it's mortifying for the parent to have to surrender to that. So, and it's incumbent on us to have the compassion and the empathy to be able to put ourselves in their position and understand why they are behaving the way they're behaving. Right. Another thing that very often happens is, you're extending yourself to your parents. You're doing all these things for them. You're being so good to them. You're taking time out of your day to be with them and to run errands for them, to do for them. And then they get all mean on you. Right? The nasty comes out. And the first time that happened to me, I was just like, what? Wait a minute. Where did that come from? I'm the one who's working my tail off for you, and you have the nerve to say that to me?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very common, because it helps them with the illusion of control, right? They're going down the tubes. They're losing it. What are they doing? They're scrambling, and they're looking for some kind of way to give them back that feeling that they have control. So what do? Well, you're their kid. They'll start pushing your buttons because they know where they're all installed. They put them there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So they know how to control you. That's really second nature to them, and they may not have tried it with you in a long time, but now here's a golden opportunity. Let's see if this still works. Ah, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and and they will feel, once they've had the desired effect on you, they're like, yeah, still got it. But then they're like, now they've got the guilt thing, right? Because it's like, did I just do that? Did I just say that? Oh my God. And depending on what their what their nature is, they may try to pretend it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Or they may apologize, or they may feel guilty, or they may try to overcompensate. It leads to a whole other thing. But what it's important for us as children to know is where it's coming from, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if we understand where it's coming from, when it happens, you can kind of say, wait a minute. Did you hear what you just said to me?
Correct.
And then you can correct it
Yes.
before it accelerates. And that's a really important thing to do. And listen, the first time it happens, the likelihood that you're going to have that clarity to be able to do that is really not likely.
Right.
Excuse me. But once you start recognizing it for what it is, then you can be the grown-up that you are, and with kindness, not just for them, but for yourself, you can say, did you hear that? Where is this coming from? And by raising the awareness of it, and by setting boundaries and saying that listen, I'm not willing to let you do that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't deserve it. I understand why you're doing it, and I'll give you a pass this time. But the next time you feel like pulling that on me, I might just remind you that I don't have to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And if it happens again, I won't be back. And that's tough love. And that's drawing boundaries, and it's letting them know, listen, what I'm doing here for you has value. And, as long as you treat that with respect and treat me with respect, we're good. You have a slip up, you yell at me, whatever, that's fine. That happens. But once it becomes systemic, nope. We don't allow that to happen, because we don't deserve it. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to take it.
That's right. That's right. And sometimes you need to draw the line. You need to draw the line or establish that baseline of respect early.
Uh-huh.
And then it'll make the whole process and relationship go a lot smoother along the way.
Yes. And it's just one of those things, and look, every relationship is different, right? We're all humans, right? And the relationship you have with your mom is, I'm certain, very different than the relationship I had with my mom and my dad, right? But that being said, there are certain commonalities, and by recognizing the kinds of things that happen, then we can exercise our own brand of what we need to exercise in order to make sure that everybody understands each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's caregiving, family caregiving is tough. It's very, very hard. And, it can go on for years. And if you don't set certain things in motion from the outset, the likelihood that you are going to harm yourself in your caregiving role is a lot higher. And Sean, I'm going to hit you with a stat, and I don't know if you've heard this or not. A lot of people are shocked when they hear it. When a family member is caring for someone with dementia, there's a 50% chance that they will die before the person they're taking care of.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why I do what I do, my friend, because that's just too high a number. But if you think about it, it's true. And there's a page on the Family Caregiver Alliance that has the numbers, and it is shocking how high the numbers are. If it's a spouse taking care of a loved one with dementia, the number goes up to 63%.
Wow.
Yes. And I want adult children to know that, because very often, now this is a scenario that happens a lot, and I'm putting it out there because people need to know this. Women tend to get Alzheimer's disease with greater frequency than men do. We don't know why, it just is. It's a number. And a lot of times the husbands, out of a sense of duty and obligation, out of love, out of honoring their vows, their marriage vows, will take care of their wife.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is the adult children will see what's going on and say, Dad, come on, we want to help. Nah, I got this, kid. And the next thing you know, Dad has a heart attack, and Mom is on her own. Now what do you do? And the best source of all the information about Mom is now gone. So you're dealing with grieving the death of your father and now having to jump in with the care of your mom. So this is why I talk about these things, because I want the adult children to get a little smarter about what's going on. You may think you're off the hook when your dad says, I got this, or when your mom says, I got this. Mm-hmm. But there's a very high probability that the person in the role of caregiver is either going to die or suffer some kind of illness that's going to require that they get care also.
Yes.
And then you're really up the creek.
You know, Tracey, I can't tell you the countless times that I've seen this, and just in the last 3 years. I've seen that scenario play out so many times in the last 3 years. And I've never even thought about it from the statistical standpoint. But to know that 50% of all the caregivers who care for persons with dementia will die before the person that they're caring for is way too high.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, I think that stat should be ready. And it's the first time I heard it, and I'm in home care. I think that stat should be much more readily available so that people who are in that predicament understand the seriousness of what they're dealing with. Not just the dementia, but also the role that you're playing and how stressful
mm-hmm.
and how taxing it can be.
Absolutely. And there's another component. When you're taking care of somebody with dementia, let's say, and you're taking them to doctor's appointments, right? You're making sure they get their medications. You're taking them for diagnostic tests. You're doing all this stuff for them. And then you got to go see the doctor for your annual physical or your mammogram or your whatever test.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to go? A lot of times caregivers don't. They ignore their own self-care because mm-hmm. they're prioritizing their loved one's care above their own. And that also contributes to that number.
Yes, it does.
And so that's, I knew, I used to belong to a caregiver support group on Facebook because when I was caring for my mom, I could not get to a live meeting. So I joined this, the aging caregivers group, and I got to know I got to know the caregivers, right? You know, we would, support each other and tell each other stories. And there was one guy, at the time, he was caregiving a 94-year-old mom, and he was 64. And he got sick. And this is several years ago. This is when my mom was still alive. This is probably like 6 years ago. And he would not go to the doctor. He would not go to the hospital. He died of pneumonia, and his mother was still alive.
Wow.
And the family had to scramble and find somebody else to take care of the mom. So actually, I think somebody from the caregiver support group actually took it on. So, and then there was another woman, and this one just totally broke my heart. This woman was in her mid-50s, and she had two parents who had psych issues, and they both had dementia. And they were really stressing her out. And she was always so lovely and gracious. And she really, and they were divorced. And she was going back and forth between the two households and taking care of the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget this as long as I live. On a Friday, she said, "I'm done. These people, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm going to focus on taking care of myself." And that weekend, she died in her sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I was heartbroken when I learned that she had died. I was just heartbroken. And since then, and after that, I started, learning about, the statistics and how prevalent this is and how grateful I am. I beat the odds twice.
Wow. Yes.
So,
Yes.
and look, Sean, I'm a very lucky woman and I feel very blessed and I'm grateful. But because of what I know and what I've been through, I am dedicated to raising awareness so that people will understand how dangerous caregiving is. And I highly recommend anybody who has aging parents learn more about caregiving, because even if you're not going to be their direct caregiver, if you're involved in any way, shape, or form, you really need to know what's involved. Because if it's, let's say it's a sibling or a cousin or whatever it is, you want to understand their journey and what they're going to be going through, and you want to be able to support them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want the death of anybody to be on your conscience.
Right.
So so my book is a really great resource. And listen, I'm not here to sell books. I'm just saying that the reason I put my book out was I wanted to raise awareness. I wanted people to understand what the journey is like. And by the way, it's also very funny. It's a good read.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just saying it, because a year after I stopped writing it, it started as a blog, and a year after I stopped writing it, I went back to it and I started reading it, and I loved it. So, and I have very high standards.
Yes.
So, but it's an entertaining way to introduce yourself to the concepts, so that you understand what dementia is like, what family dynamics are like, what caregiving is like. And there are tips in the back of the book that help you to understand, like, how to have a meaningful conversation with your folks about their future, how to counter their objections, and how to have a meaningful conversation, and then what to actually talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And then where to go, because look, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, but I've implemented all those professionals in my life to help me to be able to care for others and myself. So I think it's important for people to understand how vitally important it is to bring professionals into your life, that it's not a waste of money, and that if you have the right people coming in, it will actually save you money, and it could save your life. So
Absolutely.
I also recently launched a course
Really.
on the Udemy platform. It's called the Family Care Survival Course. And it's
Okay.
designed for adult children who are starting to realize, especially now in the age of COVID, that their parents are not as able as they thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of people are having an earlier preview of their loved one's decline, because in the face of the pandemic, a lot of people who were previously very independent and very confident, now they're frightened. So they're leaning on their adult children more. So this course is kind of saying, okay, you're noticing that there's a problem. Okay, well, here's what you should be thinking about. So people will get more proactive earlier in the process. So they'll start understanding this stuff and start, like, having the conversation, and maybe encouraging their parents to get an estate plan together and talk about the finances, and not hold everything so close to the vest, so their children will be able to act in their best interest when they can't speak for themselves.
True, true. So Tracey, what we would like, and I thank you for coming in and joining us today, and we're going to definitely have you back. Can you give the people a place where they can order your book, Dementia Sucks, and also to partake in the course and any other information that you have so that they can benefit from your experience?
Yes, certainly. Dementia Sucks was a #1 bestseller on Amazon, and you can find it there. It's also on Barnes and Noble. It's in the Simon and Schuster database, or you can just go to dementiasucks.com,
Okay.
which is where all the resources are. Um, and if you go to Udemy and search on Family Care Survival Course, you can find the course there, or you can email me. If you go to the Dementia Sucks website, and go to the contact section, you can just send me a message and I will give you all the information that you want. I'm also on Facebook. The Facebook page is Dementia Sucks, and it's Dementia SUX, because Mark Zuckerberg doesn't like SUCKS.
Okay.
Um, so you can you can contact me through that fan page, and also Grand Family Planning. That's my company where I help individuals. So there's a Grand Family Planning Facebook page. I'm on grandfamilyplanning.com, and all ways to contact me can be found there. And all the websites are interconnected. So all you got to remember is dementiasucks.com, and you can find everything else.
Okay. DementiaSucks.com, people. It's very easy to remember. Tracey, we thank you so much for joining us today. Your interview was very, very insightful. We want to have you back because you have so much to offer, so much more that we can benefit from. And we pray that you continue to grow and that you continue to help others.
Thanks so much, Sean. I really appreciate being here today. And I look forward to hearing from your listeners. And yeah, anytime, just let me know when you'd like me to come back. I'd be honored to return.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.